Come on, Facebook. You can do it. I'm waiting to see if it's going to go live. I'm spinning. Come on. Come on. If this is live, this is going to be horrible because I think I'm sitting here waiting. And in turn, it's really going. If it's not live, then why isn't it going? Stuck. Okay. Well, there we go. I've been sitting here talking to myself for a good 20 seconds as I waited for Facebook to go live. I think I might have been being recorded. I hope not. Anyway, okay. May, the month is May. This is the 9th. This is a Saturday. Tomorrow's Mother's Day. For those of you who need to do something about that, remember tomorrow's Mother's Day. Let's see. I think I might have been on. Today we're going to talk about Deadwood 10. Don't Let It Snow in Deadwood. This was a fun book, a little story behind it, but we'll get into that in a bit. But first, as we wait for everybody to get coming on and showing up, let's see. What do we need to talk about? I already posted something about the Deadwood Fan Party and the plans. We're not having the big fan party. We can't, just the way life is. But we are still doing several events. We're going to have masks, hand sanitizer. Maybe I'll bathe in hand sanitizer between signing each book. I don't know. We'll see. That might be pretty drying after a while. But we're going to be very careful. But we're still going to go. And some of you might think this is foolish. I know people are all over the board about this whole virus and staying home and going. And don't think that Mr. Lucky and I take that lightly. We are going because this is something we do every year, and we want to do it. Even if we just go and we get to sit in the library and research, we're still going to go to the library and research no matter what, and to see some of our friends in Deadwood. And the other reason we're going is that something that I don't want to make a big deal about, and my mother certainly wouldn't want me to make a big deal about, but my mom, who lives there, went for emergency surgery during this whole lockdown mess. And it was pretty scary for her. She was in the hospital 3 days. We couldn't get to her, of course, because you couldn't go in the hospital. She was drugged out of her mind. The phone calls she did for me, oh, they were hilarious, except worrying because she's so drugged out of her mind. She didn't really know what was going on. She was scared. The nurses and doctors there at the hospital were wonderful. They helped her through it. But she came home after her emergency surgery and was shaken up for another couple weeks. So I think it's very important that we're going to go up there. We need to visit her. I want to visit her. We're going to be extremely careful because my mom is 75, so we don't want to take anything with us. So we'll go into lockdown before we go, and we're going to drive straight through and head on up to Deadwood Lead no matter what. We're going to have the haunted house investigation with the Black Hills Paranormal folks, which is wonderful that Deadwood History is doing this still for us. We're breaking down into groups that are 10 or under and splitting it up so that, and we have to wear masks. So if you're signed up for that, you'll have to bring a mask. Or I think they might provide them as well. And we're going to be careful with social distancing. Same thing at the signings. We're going to be outside. We're trying to work it, and plenty of room for everybody to have space and be careful about it. So there you go. That's Deadwood this summer. We will have the big fan party next year in 2021. I've already booked the date, but we just can't do that right now. It's too dangerous. It's too, don't want anything to happen to anybody this time. So, or any time for that matter, not just this time. So let's see. Angie Anderson, I love the pictures behind you. Where did you get them? I got them at a place in Ohio, a little antique store. We were in there shopping, and they had these two, and there's one other. It's the Tasmanian Devil. So I saw them, and I had to have them. They were so fun. I love let me go this way. I love the mustache on Bugs. And Taz has a big mustache too. He's a butcher. All right, let's see if I can think of anything else before we get started. Not really. I think I'm going to do, as we talked about last time, I am going to do book signing online. So once I get the new books, it will probably be once we get back home in July. I will have a bunch of books stacked next to me, and we can do this Facebook Live thing, and you can buy the book through my AC store online, and then it lets me know who's bought a book, and I can look, we can talk, and I can do what you want me to do, sign it, whatever. So we are still going to do that. It's just going to be after, probably after Deadwood. I don't know that we can pull it off before we head up there, which will be the end of June. Oh, thank you, Karina. She likes my hair back. So let's see. And I got my skull earrings today. Ooh. Feeling very Scully today. Not like Scully, Mulder and Scully, but Scully with a K. Okay. Oh, Bob says I'm looking very sparkly in Vegas today. Yes, Bob, would you like to send me your iPad to leave it here like you like to do at Vegas? I'm just kidding. Bob has a history, a funny history with his tablets as he travels. So let's see. Let me read the back of this book and let's get rolling. We've been on for 5 minutes and I think we're doing pretty well. I can't see anything today for some reason, like how many people are here or what's going on. I think Facebook probably changed their stuff. So onward we go. Let's see. Don't Let It Snow. I'll answer this quick from Christina. Is there a pre-order for your physical book yet for Deadwood 11? No, there is not. Not yet. There's a whole process that goes into it for us. And we start with ebooks because we format ebook first. And then we get ebooks, the ebook version all cleaned up. And then we take and transfer that file into the print formatting, and it goes from there. And print always takes a little longer because you have to work with getting a proof back and making sure it looks okay, or crossing your fingers and saying, yeah, the proof looks good online, let's run with it anyway. And then getting the book and then ordering, and it takes 2 to 3 weeks a lot of times for me to get the books here. So unfortunately, the whole thing takes a little bit. But the print book will be coming, I promise you. And I hope to have it out in June and ready because I want to take it to Deadwood or have it in Deadwood too. So I'm going to read this quick, then I'll go back to questions, and then we'll come back here. And you guys know the routine, those of you who have been here. Let's see. Oh, and before we go, what am I drinking today? Mr. Lucky did make my drink again. And last week, he admitted it was a little stronger. He didn't really measure. This week, this is I can never turn it right for the camera. La Paloma, tequila, lime, salt, grapefruit juice, strawberries, and a lime. Yum. Okay, Don't Let It Snow in Deadwood. It's Christmas Eve, and Violet Parker has one request on her list for Santa to make it home to her kids. Unfortunately, home is also the lair of her lifelong nemesis, her sister Susan, aka the Devil's Concubine. Standing in Violet's way is Old Man Winter, who slams the Black Hills with a show-stopping blizzard. However, a little snow isn't going to ground her sleigh, not with family counting on her to deliver Santa's goods. Trying to keep Christmas from turning into a candy cane calamity, Violet battles her demons and struggles through the chaos storming around her. Can she make it through the holiday without cracking anyone's nut? So, Don't Let It Snow in Deadwood, number 10. Now, before I take questions, I start looking at the questions, let me just add this. This was supposed to be a Deadwood short at the start, a full-on, maybe 20,000 words max book. It ended up over 3 times that length. And there's one person to blame, and it's not Violet. It is Diane Garland. Hi, Diane. Yes. She kept saying, make it longer. Keep going longer. Make this story longer. Don't stop. You got to keep going longer. And saying, just add 10 more thousand words. Just another 10,000 words. And I think Violet was listening to Diane because then all of a sudden the book kept going and going and the story kept unfolding. And before I knew it, I had, it's almost 65,000, I think, something like that. I had a book on my hands. No longer, this little short story I was going to tell. It became a full-on book. And then I had to decide because it was shorter than, about 30,000 words shorter than Nearly Departed. So then I had to decide, well, do I make it a Deadwood short, just an extra long, a Deadwood long short, short long? Do I make it a regular Deadwood book but it's shorter than the others. And in the end, I decided to make number 10 because I felt that if you don't read it and you would skip right to the next one, which is coming out, there are many things that happen that you would go, what? For example, what do you mean Violet's married? How can this even be? Where did this happen? That is a little too big to just skip over and put it, oh yeah, it's a short. Because a lot of people don't read the shorts. They come back to them later, a lot of times when they're looking for stuff to fill the time as they wait for the next book. So I really kind of wanted people to read this book so that in Deadwood 11, I didn't have to do 2 chapters of backstory to explain how Violet ended up married. So that's the reason why this became number 10. Some people weren't happy about that. There's not really much paranormal at all. So it was a real big change from, where we'd gone. But then again, I kind of, as a series reader, I like when the series switches up a little bit. It's like a roller coaster ride, You've got your hills, you got your bends, you got your spins, you got your corkscrews, you got your whole thing. And if it was all one big downhill, free-for-all, I'd have a heart attack. So it's important, I think, for the series to have, different things it does as we go along and change it up so it's not always the same. Now, a lot of you guys have read each book as they've come out. So you've been with me a long time and you're like, come on, we needed more. But you've got to remember that many people are going to come in and read the series in one fell swoop. And they're just going to gobble it up in, 10 days. That sounds crazy, but people do. I'm like that. I'll read a whole book in a day. They'll gobble it up in 2 weeks or 3, and it will all flow for them. So I, as the author, have to keep in mind the whole flow of the series when I'm writing these books, not just individual single title books. So it makes it a little bit different. And Christina, I just saw pop up, for some reason it's starting to pop up now. I love your shirt. Thank you. My sister sent me this. She loves to send me skull things. This is from my sister. These are from my sister. This is from my sister. And ironically, of all the hats I've worn so far, this thing is the most comfortable, and I'm pretty sure she got it at like the dollar store for probably $2. But it's awesome. It fits my big head perfectly, and it goes over my wide ears perfectly. So it's one of my new favorite hats. Okay, so let's see if I can, let's get some questions going. So thank you all who have shown up. I really appreciate you coming. I know it's a busy Saturday and it's sunny. Well, not everywhere, apparently. I saw snow pictures earlier, but it's a nice weekend. So, I was happy if 3 people showed up and we could chat. So I'm glad you guys are here. Okay. I did that one. Does Violet ignore the tourist stuff in town? She's never mentioned the gunfight reenactments. That's from Pat. Hi, Pat. Well, she hasn't really mentioned, if you live there, let's take my mother, who's been there I have to do my age and go backwards. She's been there like 36 years, I think now. Woo! It's been there a long time. She never talks about the gunfights. It's not something that is on locals' radars, a lot of them, unless they're part of it. It's just, you hear the gunfire now and then, even when I'm there. And I'm staying where I can hear the gunfire. I'll hear it and oh yeah, they're doing the shootout again. It's no big deal. It's just part of life when you live in that town. So I haven't mentioned it because of that. I do mention some touristy things, but I try to go with the locals that I know and the way they interact throughout Deadwood and try to keep that in mind and what it's like to live there versus just visiting and treat it that way for Violet. Where is Coop's gun lamp from Kimberly? I think it's in storage. Oh, but maybe he took it to Doc's house. I don't know. I do like that lamp. That was funny. Can Aunt Zoe read runestones? That's April Pears. Oh, I'm trying to remember now. Grandma Great. And there's a reason I call her Grandma Great instead of Great Grandma. My grandmother was called by my cousin's kids, she was the first one to have kids as the great grandchildren. And I'm pretty sure I remember when they were little, they would run around and they would call her Grandma Great. So I kind of use that. Now, my grandma is not the same as Violet's grandmother, but I always liked that it was a little bit different than great grandmother. So that's why they're reversed in the books. Is it's something from my family that happened. But anyhow, now I know Grandma could read them, and I think Zoe has a working knowledge of them, but she's not into runestones. Her thing was glass making all along. And we're going to learn more about Zoe and the glass making and some of family stuff in book 11 in regards to that. So stay tuned for that when you read the book that comes out May 29th, yay, as an ebook. I know it's just the ebook, but it's all coming. It's coming. Does Violet's mom now understand how selfishly cruel Susan is? I think so. I'm thinking back to that at the end in the scene. Violet's mom and dad went down and talked to Susan right before Susan left at the end of book 10. And Violet's mom was pretty mad. And I think they laid down the law that said, you fix this or don't come back because you have royally screwed up. And so, yes, I don't think that Hope Parker, Violet's mom, was ever truly blind to Susan. But like a mother, speaking Mother's Day, you tend to look at your children and you make excuses sometimes and you have big hopes always. And sometimes they live up to them and sometimes they don't. And when they don't, you still often will make excuses for them, even though you see what really their personality is really like. You will make excuses for them in public and other places because maybe they were throwing a fit that day and they were rude to somebody. So you say, I'm sorry. We once had where a lady was walking out double doors and my son, instead of holding it, he was pretty young. See, I'm making an excuse. He opened it and walked right in, didn't let her come out. And I held the door for her and I apologized. And I've said, I'm sorry. He's still in training. We're working on this. And she laughed and she was like, that's fine. I understand. He's just a kid, but you make excuses. So I think that's what Hope has always done for Susan is she sees some part of Susan that's good underneath it all. Unfortunately, Violet's always been on the bad side of Susan. So Violet can't see that. And Violet has decades of anger build up as a sibling might and just cannot forgive. It's not her child. She doesn't have to forgive her. So that's a really long answer to that question, but that's kind of how I feel about the whole Susan situation with regards to Hope. Joanne, thank you for that question. Lane loves some weapons and is starting to get some. Will Violet use the trident in her battles? That's from Barbara. Hi, Barbara. Oh, wouldn't that be fun? I've thought about that. I've thought about how she would use the trident and her fighting and what creature might come that would require a trident. So stay tuned. I am thinking about that. I do like that. And some of the other weapons that are brought on. No weapon is out of bounds, as you know. I mean, she never really did use the rolling pin in book 2, but it was used as a weapon. So, and she used, wasn't it in book, oh, geez, help me, 6 or 7? 7, when she takes out Callie? 8, no, 7, Wild Fright. She uses the screwed part, or, on a, first aid, those little knives, Swiss Army knife. So you never know what Violet will use. All right, let's see. This is from Angie. Hi, Angie. Is Lane going to be Violet's armorer? I'm not sure what you mean. You mean, is he going to supply her with weapons? In that case, he seems to be. He seems to be into weapons and collecting them. And I can see his mother borrowing something to go kill something. Will Camo Santa show back up anywhere, Barbara? He was funny. I like that guy. I feel bad for that guy because he was lonely on Christmas. And I think he would have really enjoyed their Christmas lunch, especially once the investigator showed up and it really blew up. I think it would have been very entertaining for him. And they probably should have invited him to come to Christmas dinner with them at that point, but they didn't. So he might. I wouldn't write any character I pull out, I put on there, I wouldn't write it off. Now, Diane has made up a list of all the characters in all my different books for a total count. And Diane will tell me the right number because I think she's paying attention today. But I think and this includes the 2 books with Sam Lucky, I think we're around 600 characters that are out there. Some of them not named, many of them are. So she'll come on and tell me which it was. And I just saw Bob's post from a while ago. It says nag, nag, nag. Oh, Bob. Okay, let's see. When will we learn? This is from Kathy. Will we learn what Mona is typing? We will someday. We will definitely learn. It's coming. Stay tuned. This is from Donald. Do you think there's a nefarious background to Susan's biological father, someone who is trying to counter Violet's family line? Maybe Violet's nickname for her bride of Satan is closer to the truth than we know. Da, da, da. That someone else has said that to me or wrote me one time about that, wondering Susan's dad. At this time, I'm not going to answer that because I don't want to pigeonhole myself in any way. I want to have the opportunity to do whatever comes to mind when the time comes. But who knows? I mean, this is a crazy world, and who knows who's what player. And you'd think, oh, it's random. But no, a lot of stuff has been kind of lined up so that Violet's there fighting and doing what she needs to do. Did Grandma Great know Violet was a Scharfrichter? That's from Debbie. She did. Now, if you remember, there's a couple different lines, and I can't remember them line for line, but where Grandma Great talks to Zoe and warns her that Violet is... it's very strong in Violet, and she suspects, and Zoe should watch Violet because Grandma Great suspects something is about to, change with her at any time. So she did. I think she knew it was coming. She could sense it, and that was why she was working hard with Zoe to train her, rather than Zoe's mom, who really wasn't into it for whatever reason. I haven't really gone into that online, but Grandma Great saw in Zoe the potential to be a great teacher to Violet. So I think that was a lot why she chose Zoe to learn as much as she did. Why does Susan treat Violet like she does? That's Kimberly. Why does my daughter like to pick on my son? Why does my son do things that drives my daughter nuts? Those are questions I would like to know as a mother so that I could stop it and have perfect harmony. But then that would seem weird, and we'd be like the Beaver Cleaver family and probably be insane underneath it all. So I don't really have an answer, except I have talked about in the story that Susan, there's a jealousy there. Susan is jealous of several things when it comes to Violet. She's jealous that Violet's dad she has a mom and dad, and Susan doesn't know her dad, especially now. But growing up, she didn't know that. So there was this underlying thing that Susan felt, in my opinion, that it wasn't quite right, that Blake wasn't quite, I don't know, that she knew Blake wasn't her dad, but that there was something off about her compared to Violet and Quint. Also, Quint and Violet are like this. So there was a jealousy for Susan because she wasn't like this with Quint or Violet. She was also jealous, and I think she talks about it in this actual book, that she was jealous of, she wanted more from Violet. She wanted more attention. She wanted to be more important in Violet's eyes. And Violet wasn't that for her. She wasn't the sister Susan wanted either. So acting out, Susan then went after Violet to try in her own way to get the attention from Violet. It's a crazy, messed up world. Who knows why we do the things we do, especially with some people. Jealousy can make you really ugly in so many ways. So I think it's a combination of all that. I mean, Susan is gorgeous, tall, model body, long, beautiful hair. She's very much opposite of Violet in that way. And maybe, there was something in that too. She wanted to be more like Violet, but she can't. She's just too different. So that's kind of the answer to that one, Kimberly. Are Susan and Quint close, or does Susan treat him like Violet? No, Susan, that's a good question coming off what I just answered, and that question was from Susan. Susan and Quint are okay. Quint gets along with everybody. He's easygoing, is the way I see it. But they're not close. It's nothing like Violet and Quint. And Susan feels that. She does not treat Quint bad like Violet. He was enough older than her that there was a distance to not... I think Violet's like 3 years older than her. I think Quint is more like 5 or 6 years older than Susan. So there was enough distance there that it was harder for Susan to, interact with him in that same pain in the ass way. She took it out on Violet. Quint's been distanced enough that he could stay back. He was old enough to, when the kids are fighting, the older kids go, you got to be part of that. So it's a different relationship there. Oh, and I'm sorry, that was Kimberly. It looks like. Okay, is Violet relieved or shocked or even upset with the kids training with Dot? This is from Heather. Hi, Heather. Is it a relief to know that what they have been doing? She's relieved, and I think that was in the story, but I can't remember now. It's been a little bit, but I remember her being happy because she worries about her kids and the monsters coming for them, the others and all that coming, and she knows her kids are a target. So there was relief, I think, that Doc is training them on some level. And it's Doc. At this point, she trusts Doc more than, had it been the second book, she would have been like, what are you doing with my kids? But by this point, she knows Doc cares for her kids and what he's doing to help. So I think there's a part of her, of course, she probably wishes that this didn't even need to happen. But, she's living in what her reality is now, which is that they could come for her kids. And if they know any kind of self-defense, it will help keep them alive in the face of danger. So she is happy that he is helping them to be stronger. And there's the potential, of course, that they're going to become something. So better they start learning now than later on how to defend themselves. Are Violet and Doc ever going to live together? This is Deb Grimm. Hi, Deb. I haven't started drinking my drink yet. Let's do that. Possibly. Yes. I mean, they kind of live together now, but they're in Zoe's house. Oh my gosh. Mr. Lucky, that's strong, but it's good. Yes. Here's the thing. Aunt Zoe's house, if you remember one of the books I talked about, there's wards, there's all these protection charms, there's all this kind of stuff Aunt Zoe has set up around her house to protect Violet and the kids because she saw potential coming that there was going to be danger. So leaving Zoe's house means we have to do the same thing at Doc's. We have to do all the setup for that. So there's some work involved. On top of that, right now, Cooper and Harvey really need a place to stay, and Doc's house is perfect for them. And since Doc is perfectly content with sharing Violet's bedroom and being close to the kids this way and helping protect everybody by being in the house with them, it really works out well. And I mean, he also has to protect Aunt Zoe, and he knows that because she's a risk too. I mean, she knows things. She holds the knowledge and such a help to Violet that, Dominic is just one example of the risk for Aunt Zoe. So having Doc there with them, as Doc likes to protect, he is a protector. It works out well because he feels he's helping in his own way with them, keeping an eye on everything. So, but that doesn't mean they're going to live there forever. And if anything ever does happen with Reed and Zoe, I mean, we've got Reed too, and then we got a real full house. So, wow, that's really good. I like it even more the second time. Okay, let's see. Where was I at? Sorry. Will the Morgan sisters show back up in Deadwood? I would love to see Nat and Kate go after. Man, I love those Morgan sisters. They are so fun. They might be back. I wouldn't put them past them to come up and get some stuff out of storage, and visit again. And if you have read In Cahoots with the Prickly Pear Posse, you might remember that Chester and Old Man Harvey have become very good pals. So we might be seeing some of Chester up there as well in Deadwood. And they could get into some big trouble together, I'm sure. And that was from April. Let's see. What is Quint, since he can't be a killer? Is he a seer? I mean, he sees things. This is Gail Mathers. If you've read, I don't really want to ruin this for people who haven't read Dig Site #2, but if you haven't, you should probably read it. You will find out that Quint has abilities. And Gail, I don't know if you have read that, but he is not a seer, but he is the yin to Violet's yang in many ways. So he has some abilities too. So Gail, go to book Dig Site #2 and scan through that if you've already read it, and you'll be reminded what Quint is. And I probably already said it in a previous one, and I'm being extra cautious today. I'm still too sober, maybe, so I'm not telling you everything. But he does have a role as well. Will you post clips from your ghost hunt in Deadwood this summer? From Vicky. Hi, Vicky. I'm so sad you guys can't be there. I don't know what we can post. I don't know if Mo from Black Hills Paranormal Investigations, sometimes he does live on his phone. So maybe they'll do a live, one of the trips through the house, we'll do a live. I have to talk to him and see what he wants to do. I am just on the tour for that one and having, well, not the tour. I am just part of the team, the investigation team on that one with everybody else. So I'm going to be having fun, and I'm going to be with my ghost, whatever I have. And hopefully I get one of their fun things that I can, EMF or whatever it is. You'd think I'd know that by now. But we'll see. I also kind of want to do the brothel tour if it's open, Vicki. And we did that long ago at the first fan get together. And I want to see how Deadwood history has changed it up. So I think it's going to be cool if I could go in there. I'll see if they'll let me take any pictures. I don't know if they will or not. Will Hawk always be in the dark, or will he ever find out what's really going on? And will Violet punch him in the nose in the future? This is from Christina. Punch him in the nose. That would be fun. Oh, Hawk. I would think that if you showed him this is a ghost right in his face at this point, and if it's Violet there, he's going to be like, I don't believe it. That's bull. She's playing something. It's the witch. She's messing with me. I'm not going to buy it. So we shall see what happens. Hawk is back in 11, and he'll be back for the next few. I don't know. He'll be back. He's still there. So stay tuned for more Hawk. Okay, I am dying to know if one of Violet's big fears, getting pregnant, is going to be a reality in the future. That's Angie Anderson. I am dying to know that too, Angie. I don't know. She does not want children. I can tell you that. Boy, that would be such a, to be an executioner and then be pregnant, that would be very scary for all involved, I would think. However, I don't know. We have to see. Stay tuned. We have a lot of books to go and a lot that's going to happen. And sure would be interesting if Doc and Violet had a kid, though, wouldn't it? Okay, let's go back. So that's my non-answer to the answer. April, I love Harvey and Chester together. Me too. Those guys are so much fun. They're perfect. I'm reading on another thing right here quick. Diane says, I like the shorts. Thank you, Diane. And Tara said, one of my favorite parts of the book is the insight into Cornelius's personality in this one and sense of humor. Also, the way they all care about each other is highlighted as well. Thank you, Tara. I know, I agree. Cornelius really, in the last few books, he's really been blossoming. And you're starting to see sides of him that, of course, we didn't see at first when he just seemed really weird. We're starting to see, there was something from the start where Violet, she considered him a friend, even when she thought he was really weird. And she still thinks he's weird. But she considered him a really good friend. And we're starting to see what she was seeing below the surface. She was sensing it, how deep the depth that Cornelius has, his personality, his knowledge, all that good stuff. And Mr. Lucky says, I need to stir my drink. So I am stirring my drink. Let's see. Let's go back to these questions. Elena B, is there a particular reason that Violet wasn't trained a little earlier on the sly since Grandma Great saw her potential? Well, if you think about it, she was very into sports, and her father encouraged that. And she played softball, and she actually got a scholarship in softball. So if you think about their line and what they did, there were, in many ways, she was being trained. He undoubtedly, I haven't spelled it out in like a family history little bit, but he worked with her. He trained her how to swing. He trained her how to hit, how to make hit home runs. So she was being groomed. Now, they kept it just in case, I see as in case Violet's child was the one that came up, and then they would be training the kid instead of Violet, which is Addie. So Hope and Blake were watching and just waiting to see. So in short, why bring to light this whole crazy thing unless, if Violet wasn't who she is now and didn't have the abilities and experiences, would she believe it if you told her, hey, you're an executioner possibly, we're going to wait and see what happens to you? Think about it. You would go, come again? I'm going to kill people? You're crazy. I don't believe you. That's a good strawberry. So that's kind of the answer to that, Elena. Is Reed coming to the holiday gathering a way of sneaking him back into Zoe's heart? That's Heather. I love Reed. He's so sweet. Although he was a big butthead before, and he should have known better than to treat her like he did. I know. He was all torn up over his divorce and just uncertain if he really wanted to get married again and go through a whole mess again, just in case. But he really screwed the pooch on that one. He should have, he had Zoe and he could have kept her, but now he's got to make up for it and then some. So yeah, he's trying to get back into her heart any way he can. He's worming his way in, but Zoe, man, she's tough. She's not a young 22-year-old, 23-year-old. No offense if anybody's, that young. But, back then you have stars in your eyes and you're willing to forgive and forget a lot easier. When you hit your 50s, like Zoe, and you've been recently burned and it hurt really bad, you're old enough to know better to do it again. And, that might have been really fun. And I, liked it and enjoyed and fell in love, but that heartache is not something I really want to go through again. So I'd like to think, at least as I keep getting older, that I would learn my lesson and be a lot more careful. So that's kind of what's going on there with Zoe in her head. And then Reed keeps trying. How much does Violet's mom know about the husband's bloodline, and how does she feel about it? I think they've been keeping, it's Tara, I think they've been keeping hope in the dark. I mean, she really knows nothing about it. She's got her hands full with Susan. Taking care of raising Susan was enough, and all that went on with that. I don't know that Hope could handle it. I mean, she's a flower child mentality. Peace, love, and happiness, rainbows and unicorns and all that good stuff. So she's not an idiot by any means, but she's much, peace is her thing, and to know that her daughter is a killer of not even human. I mean, it's killing humans, that's bad. That it would be a bad thing, but she's killing all kinds of stuff. That's kind of mind-blowing. So in my opinion, the way this works through the family line is you keep people in the dark if you can. Only those who need to know need to know. Will Chester come up to Deadwood anytime? This is Barbara. I can see that happening. I definitely can see that happening. Chester's one that he's willing to come up and travel and hang out with Harvey because he had a great time with Harvey, man. Especially if he finds out that there's women available up there. Chester's always looking for another woman. Does Harvey have an underlying ability that we aren't aware of yet? It seems like something is there. That's Joanne. Oh, Joanne, you're you've been paying attention. So we shall see. But there is something weird. I mean, if you remember, is it book 9, I believe, when Susan comes to Doc's office and Masterson comes and he puts the shine on Susan, but he tries to on Harvey, and Harvey's, no, you can't get me. There's none of that. So right there is a clue that there's something up, because Masterson can get just about anybody. So he should have been able to get Harvey, I would think, but he didn't. So what is going on there? I think we'll have to wait and see. You're going to want to read book 11. I can tell you that much. Is Ray out of it now? No, Joanne. Ray is still very much in it. He is just off scene for a little bit. It was in Deadwood 9, which takes place right before Christmas, that he got fired and got mad. I think at the very end, even of number 9, he's threatening Violet. So he's still there. He will be back. There will be more of Ray, unfortunately, for all of us. We have to see that overtanned orangutan again. Same goes with Tiffany. Same goes with Rex. Same goes with, I'm trying to think if there's anyone I had killed off back in 9. I don't think so. So everybody's still there. All the villains, we have trouble. Susan, of course, after this Deadwood 10, she disappeared. She headed down to the islands. So she's not in book 11 because she's got something to fix and it's not going to be easy. But there will be more. I know you guys just love Ray. He's such a wonderful person. And I know you're missing all his nasty insults and vulgar whatever. So I just want you to know He'll be back so you can enjoy him some more. Stay tuned for more Ray. Okay, so let's see if I think I'm caught up on questions for the moment. So let's talk quick about what behind the scenes more with Deadwood number 10. And as I've said before, okay, you can't really see this. You can see it more that way. And I know I didn't hold it there long enough, but I'm not going to do that. So when I planned out 10, remember, it was going to be a short story. It was going to be maybe 15,000 words, if that. So it didn't. It got big really quick. And it started with the midpoint starts the story. And that was the first time I had done this. I did it actually way back in college. We had to take a story and we had to plot it out. And then we had to break it apart into the different plot points and stuff, different parts. And then we had to rearrange it and mix it all up so that you were reading, different timeline, or the timeline was all messed up. And then we had the exercise was to make that make sense and tell a story without using linear time. And so this was a similar kind of thing for me in a way. I got to go back to that and pick this middle scene that I liked and start the story with it and give you the walk-in feel of, oh crap, she's in the middle of the snowstorm. What the heck? What's going on? And then we go back in time. So it was kind of fun to do that. I hadn't done that in a story since college. I wrote the GMC for Violet and Doc, which is goal, motivation, conflict that I do for each story. For example, an external goal was to make it to Christmas at her parents' on Christmas Eve. The motivation, she had Santa's gifts and she wanted to get Doc, get the whole Doc being introduced as Susan done. She wanted to get him down there and get that over with because it was hanging over her head. But the conflict was the blizzard to close the road. So that was the external going on. And for an internal, she wanted to give Doc the perfect family Christmas from the start. She wanted to give him this one thing because he has not had a family since he was a little kid. He had his grandpa, but it's not the same as mom and dad and the whole thing. He's never had one, and it was his one request, a family Christmas experience. That's what he wanted for Christmas from her. Unfortunately, he got it. It's not always what you think it'll be. But anyway, the conflict was nothing is going as Violet planned, and her perfect Christmas is going to be a disaster. So that was kind of my external and internal. Diane just weighed in and said, I see now, 582, not including book 11. So that's how many characters, not including book 11. So yeah, that's a lot to keep track of. But we do, with much help from Diane. So then, we had the first turning point, and I went through, and on the back side of that really fancy note-taking I did the different parts of the story, which is the opening scene, the inciting incident, the lead up to the first plot point, first turning point. First turning point, lead up to the midpoint, and so on and so forth until the end. So I had that all planned out. So that is kind of what happened too, because it was going to be, again, the short story, and it became this long story. So all of a sudden, all these little notes I had blew up. I had all the characters and which chapter they were going to come out in, but that didn't happen that way at all. It changed all up. I had even the little gifts and who was going to give what to who or whom, whatever you want to say. But that didn't happen either. So then I just started, and the theme was family in that one, which, it is a book about family. The premise was friends are family too, which you kind of feel that by the end. It's a bigger, family is not just blood. It's much more. And the story question was, will Vi make it home in time for the holidays so she can give Doc a perfect family Christmas and get the presents and have her kids all happy, or will Susan ruin her Christmas? So Susan tried to ruin it, but it didn't happen. So that was that. And then I had all these pages, and it started out just going to be a couple of short notes on this short story. And then we have chapter 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and it's still going. And Diane's going, keep going, keep going. She's on the first draft team, so she's reading it chapter by chapter. She's like, yeah, add more, another 10,000 words. So chapter 11, 12, 13, and it's still going, 14, 15. And I was like, come on. When is this thing going to end? It just kept going. It kept spilling out. I couldn't, I think finally it's a 19 chapter book, right? I believe so. I have 19 chapters here plotted. So that was how that went. And then I had the ending, and I wrote the back cover copy at the very bottom. So my fancy notes again. And then there was this, I did the plotting like I've showed you guys before. I had these wonderful things where I go and I don't ever quite finish them, but I get them going. So, and then I even did, we have some fun stuff. That's the illustration ideas where I talk about, what I'll do is give my brother a scene and say, okay, I need a drawing for this scene. For example, let's do a short one. Violet holding up mistletoe at the end of the chapter. This will be jammed into this mistletoe will then be jammed into the forehead of a snowman on the cover. So then I give that part where Doc came over, sat down next to me. There's one other thing that I need to talk to you about before we head back to everyone else. What's that? He took my hand and dropped something in my palm. I looked down and laughed. When am I supposed to do this? I held up a mistletoe he plucked from Susan's decapitated snowman. So there's that part. So I had all that. So this little story became a book. And that's how it happened. And I dedicated this book to Diane because it's all her fault. It's as long as it is. And so I felt it should be dedicated to Diane for encouraging me to keep going. And on a side note, she still encourages me with Deadwood 11. And I was up to, 135,000 words. And she's going, how about another 10,000? Yeah. Yeah, Diane, right. So there you go. Let's go back to a couple questions here. It's almost time for someone to be drawn for the mug. So thank you for all these questions, you guys. Does the hellhole get investigated in Bush 11 or later? Gail Mathers. Gail, you need to read book 11. That's my answer for that question. And I think you're going to be very interested in how this all goes. And hopefully entertained. And hopefully the hellhole lives up to its name. So that's my answer without saying definitely or not. Violet was so relieved when she realized Elvis was not lost in the storm. Will she be more accepting of the chicken and his antics? That's from April. That chicken. Who would have figured that chicken would be what it is? I mean, it's a chicken. But Violet at this point knows there's no getting rid of that chicken. That as long as Elvis is there, as long as Addie's there, she can't, Elvis is like favorite pet, crazy enough. So she has to learn how to accept it in her own way, how to accept a chicken. That's part of your character growth. So yeah, there's going to be more scenes in the future, more coming with Elvis and Violet and the rest of them, because Elvis is an important part of the crew, believe it or not. And that's as much as I'm going to tell you about Elvis. He's not going anywhere. They're not having chicken for dinner anytime soon, in other words. Does Violet feel her relationship is solid and not threatened by Susan or Tiffany with Mr. Candy Cane himself? That's from Heather. It's been 4 months, 5 months since they really started dating. Is anybody ever are you fully okay with a relationship 5 months in, even if you're, sleeping in the same bed together every night? There's still a lot of time in there that you don't know what happened in someone's life. So I think at this point you trust them and you want to keep trusting them. But is it as firm as someone in a 20-year marriage? Probably not, or even a 10-year. And even when you've been with someone for a long time, there's always that, little, I guess it could happen. So unfortunately for Doc, Violet had Rex, who really screwed around on her and screwed up her trust. But at the same time, Violet is really trying, I think, to trust Doc. So I think it's going to keep developing, and he'll keep, things will keep going to where their relationship keeps getting more and more solid as it goes. But like I said, even though we've been reading about them for almost 10 years, they've really only been together for 5 months. So that's still pretty young in a relationship, I think. Oh, that's cold on my teeth. Woo. Do you feel Violet's going to, I already read that one. I'm not even drinking that much. Rebecca asked, hey, late to the show, what's the drink? La Paloma. It is, like I said earlier, if I could remember this right, tequila, lime, salt, and grapefruit soda. So we use Fresca. It's very good, very tasty. I had something else. Oh, it's getting darker out. I think our sun. Oops, I missed the trash. The sun is behind a cloud, so it got a little dark. Ooh. So now I'm going to read the Dear Reader letter of book 11 for you guys. And, oh wait, let me see. There's a couple here I missed. Or one I missed. Christina said, I love when Susan mistook Cornelius for Violet's boyfriend. That is one of my, there are a lot of favorite scenes, but I love that, how Cornelius handles that. He's so funny and so unflappable so many times that when he does get excited, it's very amusing. Oh, I have a winner. According for the mug, for all those who are asking questions, the winner is Gail Mathers. Yay, Gail. So if you can send me a private Facebook message, Gail, or you can email me too at ann@anncharles.com and give me your mailing address. I will get that to Mark and Michelle to ship you that really cool mug. And thank you very much to Mark and Michelle for doing this. You guys are so awesome that you do this every week for us. And those, Mark and Michelle, also are the ones on the Purple Door Saloon's Facebook page who a lot of times will do different contests to help keep stuff going and fun. And you guys are so awesome to help me with that and to do that. Okay, so let's go back to another question come in. Have you thought about making stickers of Elvis or book covers or artwork, Christina? Actually, Christina, if you go out on Zazzle.com, I believe we have several with the rockabilly version of Elvis the Chicken. Now, I have to be really careful out there with Zazzle and making anything because Elvis, there are all kinds of copyrights and things you can't do with Elvis or Elvis's image or Elvis's name. So I did some things long ago on Zazzle, and Zazzle pulled them because they said, nope. The people at Elvis Incorporated or whatever it is, Priscilla Presley, I don't know, their daughter, they came in and said, no, can't do that, can't use Elvis that way. So there are some things, though, as long as we made it a rockabilly chicken, I think is what we had to call it, then we could have Elvis up there. Jerry fired Ray for his part in losing Jeff's house contract. Will that keep him from hiring Tiffany? We're going to have to wait and see. You know, here's the thing. Jerry's not an idiot. And Jerry knows that Tiffany played her part somewhat in this, but Tiffany also spilled the beans to Jerry. But Jerry realizes that that was kind of shady and that there is probably tension there. He's kind of clueless on the female thing that Violet and Tiffany are. But that's part because Violet's trying to keep it out of, work professionals and not bring that up too much. But the problem is that Tiffany is really, really good at what she does. And she is a saleswoman and she will bring big sales. And they lost Ray. And Ray was one of the two big sales folk, right up there with Mona. So they're limping right now. And Jerry's goal is always to be the best, to be number one. He's a sportsman kind of attitude. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens with Tiffany in regards to working at Calamity Jane. But I can tell you, that will be one heck of a horrible place for Violet to go into work if she has to sit there and look at Tiffany every day. I don't know how she's going to stand it. So it's going to be, and I don't think Mona's going to be thrilled with it either because Mona's red. She's the redhead in the office. Now that would mean two redheads in the office. And that might be one redhead too many. We'll see. Let's see. How did they or you come up with the crest on the new mug? That's Tara. Well, so we had a crest in the Deadwood Fatal Traditions in Deadwood Short number, what is that, 10.5. So, and they had the family crest on the book. And I used that I talked to my brother who illustrates, and I said, I need a crest. It's black and white. We're going to put it in the book. It doesn't have to be super detailed. Make a crest. So we made the one that's the line drawing of it. Well, for this one, Mr. Lucky and I were talking about the cover and what we wanted to have on the cover. And the idea came up of putting the book number on there. And then we wanted something also to set this part, now we're on book 11 through the next chunk of series, set it apart from the first 10 books so that you could look at it and go, oh yeah, this is the second, or those not part of the first 10 group. So I talked to my brother about taking that crest and making it into fleshing it out and making it an actual, a colored thing that we can use on the cover, and we can put each book number. So book 12 will have that crest with book 12 on it, so that you can look at the cover and know the book number and see it right there. I know this far in, it probably would have helped if we had book numbers on 1 through 10, but we didn't. We have them on the spine of the print book. But from now, and we have it on the title page inside the ebooks, but now we'll have it on the cover as well to try to help. So that's how the whole thing came about. And my brother Chuck did an amazing job on that crest. I love it. I want to put it all over the place. It's so cool. And it really kind of shows, here's Violet now moving into the executioner life mentality. So that's all the stuff that went behind that. So that's where they got the crest, is it is on the book cover, as you saw. And we'll be using it in branding stuff moving forward with a lot of the Deadwood stuff. And can Mona and Tiffany have a thunder? Christina, that's funny. Oh, that might be interesting to see Mona and Tiffany together. I don't know that we've ever seen those two on scene together. Okay, let me get to, I announced the winner, right? I did do that this time. Let me get to the Dear Reader letter from book 11. Wet my whistle. And I don't believe, I don't believe this gives away anything. It just kind of preps you more for what's to come. So, Dear Reader, during the writing of this book, a worldwide pandemic occurred. How crazy does that sound? I was halfway through the story when the state of Arizona went into lockdown, and the news reports turned extremely grim. At that time, I decided to bury my head in Violet's world and wrote until I hit the end. What is going on throughout the world is wild. Change is often difficult, and we are neck deep in it right now, but we still have each other. The same is true in Violet's world. She now accepts what she is, an executioner. That doesn't mean this change from what used to be normal is easy for her to handle. There are times she wants to stay home and hide under the bed, the same as many of us during this period of uncertainty, and me after every book is released. But she has to step up, do her part, and keep humanity going, at least in her version of Deadwood. The same goes for all of us in our world, no matter our role. This book picks up where Fatal Traditions, Deadwood Shorts number 10.5, left off in early January. Natalie, Cooper, and Harvey have returned from Arizona and their visit with the Morgan sisters. And if you haven't read In Cahoots with the Prickly Pear Posse, you're missing out on exciting times with Nat and Coop. So I really recommend that you read that if you haven't before you start book 11, just so you're caught up and you don't feel like you missed something. And Violet is back to her new normal, trying to sell real estate when she's not protecting those she loves and fighting for her life. I hope you're as happy to hang out with Violet on the page as I was to escape into her world. Now go forth, read, and be merry, or rather, be careful, because it's devil days in Deadwood. And the quote is that I included was, better the devil you know than the devil you don't, which is an old English proverb. So that is the Dear Reader for number 11. So it kind of gives you an idea where we're setting when you get started on this book. All right, let's see if there's any other questions. We're getting near the end here of time, not the end of the story, not the end of the world, just of time for this show. Let me see. I want to see something else. There's something coming in. Sorry, I'm reading the questions off my phone, so give me a second. There's something coming, the bot ... So I'm going to wait for that to come in. And I'm going to, I'll read this quick. Barbara wrote, Tiffany doesn't like to lose. Would she consider going blonde to compete with Violet even more? I'm not laughing at you, Barbara, for that question. I'm laughing at the whole, what would happen if Tiffany went blonde. And, that's something I've considered, because I think she might try whatever she can to compete with Violet. And as much as Violet grouses about Tiffany having a perfect body and that beautiful red hair, Tiffany makes pokes at Violet being like Dolly Parton with the curly blonde hair and the curves. So I think they both kind of have a little issue with each other on that way, on their hair color and their everything. So I wouldn't be surprised if something like that might happen in the future or not, Barbara. We shall see. Okay, I was going to look through, there was something else I want to do. Oh, one of the things I wanted to show you was, remember I talked about before the demon names and how hard it was to come up with Kirkos? So if you ever are so bored, I had gone through and found the list of, again, I struggle with this, demon names. I mean, there are a ton of demon names. And this is just one of the many sites. So it really shows you how much fear of demons has been throughout time in different cultures. When you start looking into that and see all there is about them. So that was one thing I had here to share. And I also printed out quiz 10. Whew, I'm getting hot. That's the liver. So, and I was going to, if you haven't had a chance to do Deadwood quiz 10, I just put this up yesterday. Oh, boy, I'm losing track of time. I just put it up yesterday. So you can go out and find it and do quiz 10 and see how that goes, how you do on it. Remember, I do different answers. Diane comes up with these great questions, and then I do different feedback for both sets of answers. So there are a lot of good questions in here, and people are doing better, it seems like, on this one, maybe because people have recently read it. It's more, more up to date. So I think that's it. I don't know that I can go through and read these, but we're almost out of time. So I hate to do that to you. I think we should probably just wrap up if there's no more questions to be done. And oops. So happy Mother's Day tomorrow. For those of you who have lost your mom or something horrible like that, I'm sorry for that. I feel try to make the best of it and know that, she's in your heart. I'm fortunate to still have all my mothers. I say that because I have step parents. So, and I cherish those that I still have. But I'm really rotten at doing anything except I call. So if my mom's listening on this one, then I'll be calling tomorrow to wish you happy Mother's Day and talk to you. I don't know what I'm doing. The kids are having a surprise for me, so I'm looking forward to seeing what that's going to be. And I can't believe we're into May already. Stay tuned for more on Deadwood 11 as we keep the things going, keep promoting it, and get the book out. I will be submitting the audiobook for that probably in June, but then it takes 6 months for Carolyn to get it, for them to get her hired, put her in the slot, have her read it, do all the editing. So Deadwood 11 probably won't be out till 2021 as an audiobook, and I'm sorry for that. I have to make the choice every time of, do I wait an extra 6 to 8 months to release the ebook and print book, or do I just go forth and say audiobook will be later? And I'm an impatient person, so I just go forth. So anyway, thank you for coming today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the weekend. And I think next weekend I'm going to talk about the Deadwood shorts. So I think we might do the first 3 Deadwood shorts and kind of discuss some of that backstory and different things to do with those. And maybe we'll do even more. Maybe we'll do all of them. We'll see what time permits. So thanks for coming. Have a great weekend, and I will see you next week. Bye.